Well, welcome everyone. My name is Nancy Ostin. I'm the director of IEEE at Kappa Nu. IEEE at Kappa Nu is the honor society of IEEE, and IEEE is the world's largest technical professional organization dedicated to advancing humanity for technology. Thanks for joining us for this 2023 Pathways to Industry conference. And we're really delighted that you're here with us today. We've got a great speaker with us, a great friend of mine, a great colleague of Eta Kappa News, comes a lot to our things and always interacts with us. We're delighted to have Texas Instrument as a sponsor at this and many of our events. And as a recruiter, looking to hire all of you students out there, career professionals and others. But I'm going to just go ahead and turn this over to Mark Easley from Texas Instruments. And Mark, take it away.
All right. Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. Let me get our agenda set up here. Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to go briefly today into just TI, as you're aware of the company, but also we'll be discussing really how to be successful in finding a good internship or your first job out of school, and then how to basically be successful during that crucial time period in your life. So hopefully some good advice today during the session. But like I said, I'll kick it off with a little bit about me. So I am in North Carolina. We're headquartered in Dallas, Texas. But we do have sites all over the U.S., including nearby my location. And I've been at TI 10 years total. So started off as an intern in one of our digital processor groups. And then I moved into a full-time role in what we call applications engineering in the microcontroller group at TI, a very famous and really well-run group called the MSP430 team. Did that for quite a while, did a lot of cool things in embedded systems, Internet of Things, and basically helping customers with all kinds of technical issues, providing demos, reference designs, things like that. So really, really fun role that we have at TI. And then a few years into that, I decided I want to do something a little bit different. That's one cool thing about working at a company like Texas Instruments, is you don't have to do the same thing the whole time you're there. So I found a good job going into the marketing team, specifically for universities. So I worked a lot with your professors and other folks using TI products in the university space, research-wise, class-wise, et cetera, and then helping out a lot of things. And I've done a lot of trainings. So through Eta Kappa Nu, we've done all kinds of workshops and hands-on trainings, things like that, and super, super fun job. And then last year, I actually moved over to our recruiting team and started taking over in the recruiting. So at TI, I've had 3 jobs total, all with the same company. It's been really, really interesting. So again, something I think to consider as you're thinking about what your long-term career plans are. And you don't have to do the same thing, even though you're at the same company. So here's some updated information about us just from a glance. So this is actually the new numbers from last year. We are a $20 billion company now, which is pretty exciting. We are the world's largest analog semiconductor company by revenue. You can see last year we did $15 billion. We also have a very nice digital portfolio. Again, the microcontrollers, processors, things like that. And then we also have other categories, things like the calculators and other types of things to make up the entirety of our business. We tackle a lot of different markets, and we have customers all over the world doing all kinds of cool things. So in the last couple of years, TI has really focused our portfolio in the industrial and automotive space. These are really kind of key, what we call sockets or design opportunities for us. And they're really, really great as we're kind of going through what's been termed as like the fourth industrial revolution, basically a bunch of innovation in the industrial space around automation. And then with the automotive space, you all are very aware, of course, of electrification of vehicles, autonomous driving, all the things that require a lot of sensors and circuitry. Those are really, really great growth areas for TI. We're still heavily in personal electronics. We're still heavy in communication equipment, all the network infrastructure required for 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi networks, all that stuff. And then, of course, enterprise systems, the hyperscaler customers, the big data farms and servers run by large companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, things like that. So we're a global company. We've got about 30,000 employees worldwide. We're based in Dallas, as I mentioned, but we got design centers all over the world and all over the U.S. A key thing as well is our manufacturing capabilities. So we do a lot of stuff internally, and we have 15 manufacturing sites worldwide, state-of-the-art equipment, and really a key differentiator for us as a company. We're a pretty old company as well. So 1930 is actually when we got started, helping people find the oil out in the Texas oil fields. Over the decades, did a lot of early computing, but 1958 is a big year to remember. We had a TI engineer named Jack Kilby, who was credited with the invention of the integrated circuit, which of course is the foundational building blocks of all modern electronics. So ever since then, TI has been in the semiconductor industry. Lots of cool innovations all through the years. And it turns out we need that stuff more than ever. So business has been pretty good. So definitely we're forward looking. We're trying to build out the applications of today, but also looking at and working with our customers on applications for tomorrow. Like I talked about, right now we're going through a huge wave of automation and sensing. So things related to the Internet of Things, all in the industrial space. So that's something that's really, really exciting as we see more efficiencies, more safer ways that we can do industrial applications. We talked about the automotive stuff. We talked about how our gadgets are getting better all the time and things like that. So lots of great innovations that we're helping our customers with from the semiconductor or component side of things.
Mark, I just wanted to let you know that your slides are not advancing. So I just wanted to.
They're not advancing. Oh no.
Yeah.
Let me fix that. Let's see here.
Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. I'll just do it this way. Okay, I think that works now. Are they advancing now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So was it on the first slide the entire time?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
I don't think you had it on like slideshow, but you're
no worries.
You're good now. Sorry to jump on.
Okay, yeah, just super quick recap. Again, this is my timeline of the different careers I had at TI. This was the slide I was talking about regarding our different global presence, our history timeline that we discussed. And then I think we were here basically describing, all the cool stuff that's going on right now in the semiconductor world. Perfect. Okay, so basically our company strategy is, like I said, we have a pretty large portfolio. So in a lot of cases, we're a one-stop shop for customers. And then we have a broad reach with a very strong field, or what we call sales force, basically helping our customers out. And then we also talked about that unique kind of manufacturing capability that we have. So these are all some of the key features of the company that really, I think, make us a strong competitor in the marketplace. Now, when we're talking about working at TI, we call ourselves TIers. This is kind of common in a lot of companies, a little nickname like that. But basically, working here is really fun because of the exciting and challenging projects that we get to work on. And this is true from my experience, but really TI is full of super smart people. And that's been really great in my career to learn a lot from people and really kind of build up your skills through, learning and observing and osmosis from really, really great people. We have a great technology and IP portfolio. We're working on cutting edge stuff and really cool, innovative things all the time. We have a very good kind of training program. So our intern program is highly rated across the nation. We have very strong rotation programs and development programs to help you grow and progress your career, whether it's your early career, mid-career, or late career. And then we also have very strong programs. So things like volunteering, giving, things through our foundation, an inclusive, diverse, I think, culture, open door kind of policy and culture at TI, and then really strong reward and good things like profit sharing and other ways that we help reward our teams through our successes. As mentioned, we do have a foundation. This is really nice if employees want to volunteer at work. Basically, we can help with crediting those kind of hours. And then, of course, if you're donating types of money, we have employee match. And then we do a lot of things through the foundation in our local communities where TI is based. So for our early career programs, these are some of the examples of the jobs that we have in the semiconductor world. So things like IC design engineers, application engineers, software engineers, business operations, supply chain folks, manufacturing engineers, product marketing, test validation engineers. So all kinds of different things. And this is true across the industry, not just at TI. And each of these functions, we have full-time roles as well as internships every year. This slide I really like, shows you kind of the product life cycle. So as TI is developing new chips, we have folks like systems engineers, application engineers, marketing engineers. They're working with the process and manufacturing folks to figure out what that new chip is going to do and what's the spec or definition we're going to use to bring that to life. Then we hand off that spec to the next stage, which is our IC designers. So they'll work with tools like Cadence to start building out the photo mask or whatever we need to build out the particular new device, doing things like verification, RTL, all kinds of cool stuff. Once the design's completed, we'll do a tape out, which is actually to build it physically. So we work with our manufacturing folks to enable that. And then we start testing and validating that that chip is actually working as designed. So lots of folks basically, characterizing the part, they're stressing the part, over voltage, under voltage, or seeing how it reacts under different temperature conditions, all that kind of good stuff. And then if there's any kind of weird things happening, we report that back to the design team so those changes can be made. And then once the design is good to go, basically we go into full production. So our manufacturing team in a very dynamic team-based environment work together to try to build out that volume and inventory. And then we basically can start shipping to customers. So we have a full field team, so sales and field application engineers. They're going out and talking to customers, seeing what TI products would be a fit for the applications that they're building. And then they have the support of back-end application engineers and also marketing engineers to help them find those technical solutions. So across the board, these are all really, really great roles. They all do very different functions within our company workflow, but all super technical, very interesting careers in of themselves. So definitely, if you're interested in working at TI, either in the near term or maybe in the future, you can find our job postings on the careers.ti.com website. I'm definitely open to connecting if you all need some or have some questions regarding our opportunities specifically. Because right now it's the spring, we have kind of limited opportunities, both full-time and internships, which we're hoping to close out in the next couple weeks. So definitely speed is of the essence if you're still looking for something in the near term. But longer term, definitely happy to answer any questions on what we have to offer and the different details around the career paths at TI. So let me go back into our main point of the talk, which is basically being successful around your first internship or your first job out of school. Again, just highlighting here some of the TI stuff, and then going into our manufacturing process. So I think the next slide after this is probably talking about it, but really quick, semiconductors. Basically, our semiconductor of choice is going to be our silicon. We're going to go through the manufacturing process and use our silicon wafers, those super thin discs you can see in the second column. And then we're going to process those through different things like photolithography, et cetera, to create the circuitry inside of those squares you see there in the third column, which is the dies. That's our guts of the chip. We basically want to package that up. So that's the black plastic packaging you'd see with the leads coming out. That's our final product at TI after all the manufacturing process has been completed. TI, basically, we've been investing a lot into this. Like I mentioned previously, we're an older company, so we have a lot of really great legacy infrastructure, but we're constantly investing into the state-of-the-art brand new infrastructure. So we've announced in the last basically year or 2 years these new sites that are being built in the U.S., an expansion of our Richardson, Texas facility, basically doubling the size and capacity of that fab facility. The announcement of a new site in Lehi, Utah, which is state-of-the-art 300 millimeter plus 65 nanometer and 45 nanometer process nodes. So a lot of our TI digital products will be going out of there. And then in Sherman, Texas, which is about 40 minutes north of Dallas, we have 4 brand new state-of-the-art fabs under construction now. So this is really going to help us long-term to provide the capacity for customers, especially as you have heard, there's a lot of chip demand out there, and we want to be best able to serve that. So that's on the fab side. And then we also have what we call assembly and test, which is basically the kind of second stage of the manufacturing. We have a lot of those facilities located in Asia. We also have one in Mexico. So we're constantly investing in their capacity there. You can see in China, Malaysia, and then we have some additional plans going into the future. Okay, perfect. So now we can go ahead and go into some tips around, again, how to be successful in an internship or early career situation. So first off, before we get into the tips, what's the main goal of an internship, or what's the main goal of, I guess, getting your career kicked off? You really want to secure that job offer, right? That's the whole point of this. Is kind of a tryout or a preliminary run, both for you to see if you're a fit at the company, but also for the company to see if you're a fit for their role. So really, I think the objective and understanding is like you're doing this internship because you'd like to, hopefully secure full-time employment with that company. And then you also want to gain real world experience, right? An internship is a really great item to add to your resume. It hopefully will teach you some great technical skills. So you definitely want to make the most of the time while you're in that particular role. And then same thing when you're starting your first job, you want to get as much experience as early as possible in that role. All right, so here's the 10 tips we'll cover here. First one, positive impression. So remember, this is your first time coming into the company, whether it's a couple weeks long, a couple months long, just have a good attitude. This is super important. I think open-minded, ready to learn, ready to tackle any issues that come up. Those are all very positive things that your managers, your colleagues are going to appreciate. Being solutions oriented. This is another thing. So you may not know how to solve the problem, but at least figuring out, how you might try to tackle certain situations during that internship is definitely something that a lot of people are looking for from you. And then genuine, try not to put up a special front or be someone you're not, try to be your true self and give a very, genuine impression. Okay, another one is understanding your expectations. So this is really important, especially for short term. Again, your first year at the job, or if it's an internship, understanding what your role is, your colleagues' roles, what are they going to be doing in the project if you're all working together, and then setting very clear goals, particularly with your manager. What is the expectations? What are the success metrics, we call them, or what's the outcome of the project I need to be doing? Setting those super early on so that you can try to meet those goals is going to be very critical so that you have a very clear way of measuring if you're successful or not. So upfront goal setting in the beginning, very, very important. All right, another tip, manage your time well. So obviously in an internship situation, or even in your first year at work, right, it's a kind of a time constrained period because you're ramping up on a lot of new things. You're learning about the company. There's all kind of systems and tools and different resources at the company that you're trying to figure out. And you're trying to build your network as well, finding, which colleagues can help you with certain kinds of problems. So figuring out how you're going to manage all that kind of stuff on a kind of strict timeline, those are super important. Again, having that early conversation, what's your project scope and what needs to be delivered by the end of the internship or by the end of the project. Very, very important. Making a plan and timeline for how you're going to execute all that. Figuring out the resources you need, whether that's physical things like maybe you need a hardware kit, or maybe you need access to a certain piece of equipment or machinery, things like that. And then again, human resources, like are there certain mentors I'm supposed to be talking with to get information that's going to be critical to our success. And then keeping your stakeholders apprised. So this is typically done with like one-on-one meetings or weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings with your leadership or with your manager. And then utilizing your calendar effectively, make sure you're blocking out enough time to do the different tasks that you need to do. Cool. Another great tip, embrace the diversity around you. So types of diversity, so things like generational diversity. So like, for example, at TI, we have a lot of great engineers that have been around for a long time. So definitely taking advantage of folks that have different life experience and different kind of work experience. Working styles is another type. So, is it appropriate to call someone? Do they prefer to email? Do they want to text? What are the working styles? Are they coming in super early and leaving early? Are they coming in kind of late? What is the different working styles that are appropriate? And that's based on personal as well as the company, culture. And then communication preferences. So, like I said, how are you going to communicate with folks? Is it something where you talk it out, you visit their desk and get the information directly, or is it something that you do more through other means? And then different backgrounds, again, life experiences. So yeah, definitely make the most of all the great work diversity that you'll have. Company culture. So this is basically every company has this. It's a specific way of how they do things. So you can kind of gauge things like, okay, if I'm going to a meeting, are people on time or do they start 5 minutes late? Things like that, right? What's kind of the vibe around the seriousness of employees and how they take the work. Things like cameras on, cameras off, on a virtual meeting. What are the work hours? Like I said, do people come in early? Do they work, late? And then how are people referring? Is it a very formal relationship with, the company executives, or is it more of an informal culture? And then also, what's the mediums that people use to keep in contact? So is it a Slack? Is it email? Is it, scheduling meetings? Is it just people calling each other? All those types of things kind of build into what the company culture is all about. And then things like dress code. So how they expect you to dress while in the office or out of the office. And then what's kind of the office environment? Is it kind of an open style with a lot of collaboration, or is it more cubicle with, very quiet working conditions? And then how do people connect outside of the office? So think of things like team lunches, volunteering, offsite events. Okay, then the next tip, networking with peers. So building relationships, how to succeed. Basically, try to listen more. So especially in an internship environment, you're trying to absorb information. So letting peers and leaders, instill some of the knowledge that they have. Make sure you're listening fully for that. Having a thankful attitude, really great. You're there to learn. You're there to be mentored. And then anyone that's offering to help you out, that's really something that's appreciated when you have a very thankful attitude. And then finding reasons to reconnect. So if you want to continue to build those relationships a bit stronger with your manager or with some of your direct colleagues, you can continue to make sure you're having follow-ups with them. Visibility to leaders. This can depend on, the job or the company, but basically, are you able to comfortably share your ideas or demonstrate your knowledge to some of the key leaders that you'll be working with? And then how you're going to connect with your TI peers. And then seeking feedback. So this is going to be super important, kind of in the middle of the experience as well as the end of the experience. So in an internship environment, you want to make sure, is there any kind of corrective stuff I could be doing better as we close out the internship? And then towards the end of the internship, as we're figuring out, are we be coming back for a follow-on internship or maybe a full-time offer? What are things that we could be doing better to improve our abilities? And definitely have, open mind. So listen to that feedback without judgment. It's up to you if you want to incorporate that feedback or not. But again, just have an open mind and be receptive. And again, a thankful attitude, always very helpful. All right. And then we have lean into ambiguity. So in some cases, you have a very clear project you're working on in the summer. Again, setting those goals. These are the deliverables we need to do. This is the amount of time we need to put in to complete, task A, task B, etc. And sometimes you're not going to have a very clear thing. So in the case of a very ambiguous kind of project or work environment, definitely, again, discuss heavily with your manager, with your leader, what the outcome success metrics are going to be, and then try to stick to those as your guide. Understand the big picture, understand the context of what you're working on, and then also be flexible. And then tip 9, curiosity. So again, you're there to learn a lot in a short amount of time. So having that curious mindset, understanding more fully, Even if a mentor gives you some advice on how to approach a problem, maybe you dig a bit deeper and say, ask some follow-on questions and things like that to develop, again, those new skills. And then tip 10, basically results. So at TI and many other companies, it's very much results oriented. So your internship success, your first year on the job, it's about, basically delivering the correct results. Make sure you're completing those tasks, the project deadlines, whatever it may be. You want to focus on quality work. So put your best effort forward. And then if for some reason you fail or you didn't get fully completed with the project, figure out again with your manager, with your leader, what steps should you be taking. If there are obstacles that are in your way, make sure you're communicating those so that we can figure out ways to pivot the project or get some additional resources on the project, things like that. Make sure you have a detailed plan available. And then oftentimes when you're working in a work environment, you might be transitioning the project to a new owner. So someone on the team, maybe an intern for next year, things like that. So again, making sure you're very thorough on what you were able to accomplish and then transition that appropriately to whoever the new owner is. Okay, and then just a couple techniques here on developing a routine to be successful in the workplace. So this can be applied for internships, but also full-time. Basically, developing your weekly work schedule, managing your calendar, managing your email, figuring out your time off schedule. This is more so for the full-time, and then also health and wellness. So obviously in work, that can be a big part of our lives, right? What do you do? Oh, I'm an engineer, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a scientist, right? So work is a pretty significant part of us as we become adults. It provides some identity, it provides some purpose for our daily routine. But obviously that's not a true description of, our full self, right? Mark is an engineer, Mark is a recruiter, but that's not fully describing who we are. So put it into some context, right? In a 24-hour period, some people might even sleep more during the day than they actually work. So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of divvy up that time. And then what you can do outside of work to either make self-improvements. So think of things like exercise, developing new skills, reading, all that stuff. You could be doing leisure, so travel, hobbies, relaxing, or you can be doing community and relationships. So a lot of people, of course, focus on their family, volunteering, and other activities. And also think about, you got to go eat, right? You got to cook food, you got to do all that stuff. So a lot of ways that you can divvy up your time during the week. So every week you should have a plan. This is true for your internship or whether it's your first year in the job. Take into consideration different things like commute time. So how long is it going to take you to the office? Is there ways that we can optimize that? Or if we go maybe early in the morning, we can save a little bit of time in traffic versus going, right at rush hour. If you got travel out of town, so in some cases you might be going to something personal, you might have a business trip. How's that going to affect your weekly plan? And then some weeks you got holidays, right? We got a long weekend, those type of things. And then other types of things, either job related or outside of work plans. So you can think of, I got to go to my friend's birthday party, or I got to go to the corporate happy hour, something like that. So calendar management, super, super important. Basically, you want to write down everything. If you're the type of person that has a physical calendar, like a one that you hold and write into, definitely make sure you're fully taking advantage of that. A lot of our calendars these days are going to be digital. So whatever way that you keep track of your calendar, just make sure that everything you're doing is fully documented in there. And also in a digital calendar context, definitely remember who the audience is, right? So in most cases, it's going to be us, right? We're writing a calendar for ourselves, but in a corporate environment, maybe your calendar is being shared. So people who want to schedule meetings with you or something like that, they can see, what's going on with your schedule. So definitely be aware of who's the audience of the calendar. Is it, do you want to save certain blocks, for you to do work versus being available for meetings and things like that. Be very aware of context switches. So the more you have throughout the day where you're doing different things, that can be distracting, right? So if we can focus our efforts on doing certain things very consistently, that's when we can get a little bit better work efficiency. And then if you do need a context switch, just make sure you give yourself time to do that. And again, reduce the number of times you have to do that throughout the day. And then just know that conflicting events and priorities are going to be inevitable. You're going to have meetings, scheduled on top of meetings. So again, what's the priority flow that you're going to pick to see how you're going to handle those kind of conflicts? And then you may definitely want to consider being very detailed. So things like blocking out when you're going to go to the gym, when are you going to do the morning emails, when are you going to do laundry? Oh, I've got a haircut today. Even those kind of things, like having a plan throughout the week for all those specific detailed things can be very good. Okay, and then you want to defend your time. So once you start working, there's a lot of ways that we want to kind of save our ability to do the things we want to do, but also be super effective with the things that we're doing at that moment. So make sure that you're honest with what you can commit with your time. And then also consider, what's the possible options for that event? Is it a virtual thing? Is it somebody I have to call, or do we have to be physically in person? And then if you don't have availability or you need to work on a specific thing, make sure you're blocking your calendar out, right? Just because I don't have anything on my calendar at 2 p.m., that doesn't mean I want somebody to schedule a meeting for me at that time, right? So if you do need to block that out, make sure you're doing that. And then a good piece of advice is to leave work to only work hours. So make sure you get that off the clock time. So if you end the day at 4 p.m., don't do any work related stuff. Start context switching to your personal and home activities. And then also our work these days in this environment can be international. So you can think of maybe I'm working with people in Asia, I'm working with people in Europe, but do make sure you keep a schedule, right? So if that is the case, I need to make a phone call, to Malaysia at 8 p.m., right? Make sure you have a schedule and you keep to certain hours so people aren't calling you, at random hours of the day. Just have a schedule. And then also watch out for interruptions, right? So a colleague might stop by your desk, have a 10-minute conversation. That's 10 minutes I didn't have blocked in my calendar, right? Or someone gives me a phone call, I get a text, I get a DM, even going to the bathroom, right? These are all minutes of the day that can start to add up and take away from the stuff that you want to do. So early career, don't worry too much about how do you optimize your day. It's really about, figuring out what works for you. But just understand that the ways that we invest our time, even the most minute little things, they do add up. So start understanding what your habits are on your time management. Be realistic about how to optimize your day and track how much time you're spending for different tasks. So things like, oh, I'm going out to lunch. Oh, I'm going on a break. Oh, I'm going on, a ride to the office, things like that. And then things like time of day, what's the traffic, what's the likelihood of running into obstacles or delays. So your work time as an engineer or as a working professional, there's going to be lots of meetings. There's going to be lots of emails. You're going to be composing and communicating a bunch of information to a bunch of different stakeholders. And then finally, you have your actual technical work and process that you're probably most physically working on, right? So you sometimes get this feeling like, oh, I've been in meetings all day. I didn't even get any work done, right? And this is very, very true for a lot of days that you'll be out there, because there's a lot of different high priority items, fires you have to put out, things like that. So this is very, very normal, and just understand how you can optimize your time around these realities. Some jobs do have time sheets, or they log your hours, or they check your badge ins, badge outs. The way you're perceived in the workplace will be noticed by your colleagues and your manager. So if you come into work every day at 11 a.m., people will start to understand that's your schedule. So just be aware of how your work time looks in the context. And then just make sure you're up to date on any kind of systems or things like that track your work metrics. So you're aligned with whatever the company policies are. And then I think we're getting close to the time here. where I need to turn it over for Q&A. But just a few last items here. Keep in mind your accessibility. So if you have a work phone, which is very common, you might have a personal phone plus a work phone, just make sure you're able to turn that off, right? If you're not working, don't answer emails, things like that. Give yourself time to recharge after work. How you handle things like being accessible to family. So are you open to getting messages during the day? If there's certain emergencies that might happen, are you able to respond to those kind of things? Look out for how much time you're spending away from home. So are you spending excessive hours away, at the office, especially your first year of work, right? You want to, maybe you have the mentality you want to prove yourself or things like that, but just be careful. You might be spending too much time at work, and make sure you're connecting with your family or outside of work contacts. And then vacation, this is a critical part, not as important for interns, but for your working life. Definitely you want to take the vacation time that's provided by your company, so you have breaks, and physical exercise, physical activity, and then also making sure you're taking care of your health. These are all super important for being successful. All right, emails. Super quick. Be very organized on this. And when you're first starting at a company, you're not going to get a lot of emails, but as you get older and older, you'll have a lot of information kind of stacked up. So a good rule of practice, you may have heard of this, called inbox zero. The idea here is you want to clear your inbox basically every day. So you do that by either deleting emails, or you organize them in folders, or using inbox rules, things like that. So if you can stay super organized on your email over the long term, that's really going to be providing some great benefits, because your inbox can very easily get out of hand and cause some really stressful stuff for you. Watch out for crazy newsletters, and then also be careful when you're sharing your email so you don't get a lot of spam. All right. And then as far as vacation planning, again, this is more for your career life, but where you're going to be strategic around taking your vacation days, whether it's a long weekend, whether you need just a quick break to do a catch-up day, or you're planning maybe a larger vacation. You want to go 2 weeks to Japan, or, do something really fun to kind of get away from work. And then also all the holidays that you have throughout the year. So things like Thanksgiving, Independence Day, Labor Day. How are you going to take advantage of those times? So again, be strategic, take those breaks, and then definitely take full advantage. Lastly, so health and wellness. As I mentioned, make sure you're doing these things. It doesn't have to be super intense. It could be just, walking regularly, doing something, but make sure you're getting a little bit of activity. If your company offers some gym access, or you have facilities, either through the local parks and rec of your town, all those things are really, really great to participate in. And then throughout the day, take breaks. So go out and stretch or walk around. A lot of companies provide ergonomic stuff. So when you're at your desk, you can adjust the heights of everything and things like that. So if you do have those opportunities, definitely take full advantage, because again, this is just how to live a healthy lifestyle while working. And then definitely make time for your medical stuff, as well as examining your eating habits. And then as far as wellness, so making sure that you're not super stressed, developing hobbies that can clear your mind from work. And then social interactions, sports, clubs, other organizations, and activities, board games, video games, trivia, reading, all ways that you can exercise your brain in kind of a different way than when you're at work. And then definitely enjoy movies, enjoy TV, but watch out if you're doing too much passive activities. Cool. So yeah, TO, we do a bunch of things. Like I said, volunteering is a big part of what we do with our foundation. Make sure you're getting plenty of sleep, skills and training that might supplement your career development. And then also that work-life balance, definitely be aware. Some jobs, that's a very thin line. So maybe you're super tight with your team. You go out together for dinner, you go out together for drinks, and your social life and your work life is very much together. So if you like that, definitely be aware of it. But then if you don't like that, figure out how you can change that, so you have that kind of clear divide. At TI, we have quite a few internal, what we call club or networks that people join. And these are really great outlets for people to do stuff outside. So again, your time is super valuable. So just make sure you're being efficient with it and understanding how you operate in a work environment, and figure out what works best for you. And then build an action plan so that you have a plan, you're organized with your email, you're being strategic, you're being healthy. And that is it. Okay, cool. So I think we're at the Q&A section now.
And Mark, good. Amy's going to be here too. I thought I'd jump back on and make sure that you saw what's in the Q&A. I know it's hard to see it sometimes when you're on screen. So someone asked a really good question, I think. What is a good way for a former intern to keep in touch after the internship is ended?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a couple of good ways to do it. Definitely get the emails of key people that you want to stay in touch with. And then do note, like, once the internship's over, sometimes it's hard to get that information. So try to get that physically either written down or in your own personal contact list. But that's usually the best way. And then some people like to do platforms like LinkedIn and other types of ways to do that. But I think if you have a personal relationship already developed through the internship, then just go ahead and personally ask them if you can stay in touch, and then of course get their contact information. Yeah,
that person, because you mentioned mentors in your talk, and I was thinking about that. How do you get a mentor at work? But I think that might be a great way to get a mentor, someone that you work with at an internship with. Maybe that you can continue the relationship in more of a mentoring type relationship afterwards. So that might be a great suggestion. Another good one here. Are there any questions you've been asked by interviewees that particularly impressed you or stood out to you as a recruiter?
Oh, yeah. I think doing your homework ahead of time is really good. So understanding what the company does. And then if you have, actually the best thing really, honestly, if you come to a career fair and you've already applied to the positions, that's already a huge, huge bump, right? You've it shows you've done your homework. It shows you understand, some of the roles that are available. And that really helps make that conversation, I think, go a lot smoother. Whereas me as the recruiter trying to let you know what options there are and things like that is, and we can find a lot of good data from that. But yeah, definitely, I think pre-applying to things and doing your homework on the company and being able to speak well about what you're interested in is very important.
Right, because you really want to make sure there's a match for you there. If you're going to spend the time talking to a recruiter and things like that. We did have a question about international students. Does TI sponsor international students for internships or for full-time jobs?
Yes, we have certain roles where we do visa sponsorship. This is typically going to be at the graduate level. So we have things like IC design, so analog IC design, digital IC design, the systems engineering, process development engineer. These are typically graduate level, master's, PhD required. And those positions we do sponsor, specifically, electrical, computer engineering degrees.
What I think is really exciting about TI is all the different locations that you have, right? You mentioned some of them and where you're really expanding, but I think that's really exciting, right? Because it doesn't mean you're applying to a company with one physical location. There are many options available to you, and certainly that range of careers and technologies. Your personal story is quite interesting. And I love that you started as an intern, Mark. I didn't know that. So
yep, that's right.
Really So you're your own TI success story.
Exactly. Yeah, I have to admit, TI was not on my radar until I got that internship. So that was definitely very helpful for me to decipher my career interest. And again, I recommend if all of you have an opportunity to do an internship, that's a great way to learn stuff.
Yeah, I think so. We really encourage students to go ahead and get internships, and we know you hire for them, so we're really delighted that you're here. But someone did ask, it seems less common these days for someone to stay at a company long term, like you have. Can you speak about things that TI did to make sure that it was a place that you could stay, advance your career, be there for a while? I mean, the gold watch, I don't even know if some people on the phone understand what getting a gold watch means, but it used to be, right? You have to stay long, you have 50 years, get your gold watch.
That's
but
right.
not really today's career path.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of factors to that, but in today's job market, it is very difficult to stay at the same company. Everything's so dynamic. The job market can change. Business stuff can change all the time. So there's things like layoffs, there's reorgs, there's all kinds of different things that can affect the trajectory of your career. I think the advantage for me and companies at TI, especially TI has been around for so many years, right? We have a lot of an incentive to try to keep people. And if people want to work 20 years at TI or even more than that, and make a full career out of it, there's still opportunities to do that at companies like ours. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely, I think applying and doing your homework on which companies you think have very good long-term prospects, that can be super nice. In my case, the ability to also move around inside the company. So of course, if I don't have the ability to do that, then I would probably go to another company. But in the case of a large company with a lot of different opportunities where I can apply skills that I've learned in the previous job, but then also learn some brand new ones, that was a way out for me to still be in the company and continue on. And then if you like the culture, I think it's workplace. There's a couple different factors. One is your manager. So that can be a very huge part of whether you have work satisfaction or not. So if you have great people you work with, that's one reason to stay. Another big one is the type of work you're working on, right? Is it important work? Is it impactful work? Again, at TI, we do a ton of cool, innovative stuff. I'm working with super smart people, super great, nice people. So those are all really good reasons to stay. And then lastly, is just the culture, the benefits of a company. Are they appropriately developing you throughout? So they do things like bonuses. They do things like all the different benefits, the insurance, the 401k match, all the different.
There's a lot of things to consider when you're looking at different job offers. I talk to students about this a lot. Not all job offers are the same, depending on where you have to live and how much that will cost you. And then all these other things that really do make a difference. Health insurance, what you have to pay in, your 401k match. Most people starting their first job don't think about that, but it's the best time to save money.
Yeah, you got to take full advantage. Those benefits are there for a reason. So definitely do your homework on how you can best maximize that. And the earlier you start, especially for retirement savings and other types of benefits that you probably don't want to think about, but you really should.
Sounds crazy, right? It sounds crazy.
Yeah, if you start early, they really can help.
When young people work for me, I said, just save that whatever percent. Just put it away now. Don't even think about it. Just do it. Don't worry about it. And it's probably the best advice you can give someone is to make sure they start saving early and doing that. And you talked a lot about culture, and I think culture really is important when you find a good fit. I mean, certainly people leave jobs for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons they leave mostly is probably because it's not a good fit. Maybe there's not advancement.
Or stress related. A lot of companies, they really want to work you hard. So they expect you to be in the office for a long time, things like that. In TI, we have a very flexible culture. So if you have a family, you have things you got to do, you got to leave work early, you got to go to the doctor appointment, all that's super flexible at TI.
Because you did talk a lot about wellness, and someone asked about that. Does that mean the grind culture is now looked down upon? Which is, when I was starting to work, I mean, you were just expected to do extra, be available all the time, work every weekend, or else you are not a team player.
Yep. And some of that's company culture, some of that's self-imposed, because we obviously want to do well. We want to put our best effort forward, but you gotta really try to balance your life as much as possible.
I think that is also one of the tricks to longevity, right? Is that you can create not just a career for yourself, but a life for yourself that has a great career. That's terrific. So we're coming up really just very much to the end here. I know a lot of people were interested in talking to you, and I were in your booth earlier. So we'll make sure that if you're interested, please drop by Mark's booth and leave a note. If you drop by the TI booth, and even if no one's there, we'll know you dropped by. So we'll make sure Mark gets those, get your information so that knows that you're interested in a job. But you can, in that booth, you can go ahead and look for jobs and do that. And you can always contact me if you're trying to reach Mark. Trust me, right, Mark? I write to you all the time saying
that's right.
Who's looking for you? So
I think my final advice for everyone, now that you're in school, just make sure you're taking that seriously. If you're getting the full experience out of your university degree, it's all going to work out as far as the work stuff. Don't worry, there's plenty of jobs out there. You'll get it all figured out. And then use some of the trends. I shared some interesting stuff today. Understand what the future might look like, and that can affect where you want to take your career as well. Again, if you know the future, you can do a lot of cool stuff. And then I think just don't be scared of not knowing, right? If this is your first internship, if you're starting your first job for the first time, there's going to be a lot you're going to learn. So don't be afraid. That's totally normal. And just try to absorb as much as you can from the great mentors and networks you got.
Well, gosh, you got a lot of really great points. I'm glad we got the slides advancing because they were really chock full of great advice. We'll have to figure out a way to grab all this advice and make sure we can get out to as many people as possible. But thank you, Mark, so much for being with us today. It was a really interesting, wonderful presentation, a lot of tremendously important information. We appreciate TI being our partner and all these kinds of things, hiring HKN students, your interest in helping students succeed and helping career professionals find a home at Texas Instruments. That's great. Our next session is going to be at 4:00, and it's going to be how to amplify your online presence to build confidence and credibility in your career. So online is another way to network yourself into a job. So hopefully you can join us for that. And for now, Mark, thanks so much. We really do appreciate your time, and we'll see you around Pathways and around HKN.
Thank you, everyone.